visit places. Talk about taking over. We ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know. We gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Make no mistake, 'cause we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we.
Engineer Mr. Sean Britton, DREO Planning. Ms. Celestine LaRose, she's already. Two gentlemen at the back, Mr. Joseph Patterson, he's the regional engineer, and Dr. Jonathan Dudnot, RHU. Thank you.
Thank you, Ario. Ario. Oh, and the PS at the back. You forget your PS.
I'm sorry, my apologies.
We won't forget your PS. Ario, we would have taken a position at the PSC to remind all accounting officers making an appearance before the committee of what the Legislative Bodies Evidence Act indicates, Chapter 108, where every person examined under this act who willfully gives false evidence shall be guilty of perjury. And we intentionally remind accounting officers of this provision in the act because it is the committee's intention to have accounting officers give true and accurate information that they are bringing before the Public Accounts Committee, and also to indicate to accounting officers that if they are not in a position to provide such information of accuracy, truthfulness, and facts, we ask them to refrain from providing the committee with any responses that they cannot substantiate with evidence. So we want accounting officers to be comfortable at the PSC and to give truthful information. And we can accept if you're not in a position at the point in time to respond to a member's question in providing the accuracy of your response. All right. Members, we have region number 8 before us, and we have, one second. We have 66 paragraphs for our consideration, 827 to 892. I put before the committee 827 to 837. The floor is open, honorable members. And let me remind members, when we conclude these paragraphs and I propose the others, we will not be facilitating any member going back. Okay?
Chair.
Yes, Madam. Go ahead, ma'am.
Chair.
Finance, go ahead.
Paragraph 827. Actually, this is 827 and 828. I'll take them together. It's one matter.
Go ahead.
Sir, I'm making the observation from both the report and also from the briefing notes that was submitted to us from the auditor office. The briefing notes is indicating that at 828 that the contracted employees, which included additions for the year, accounted for 13% of total employees. My issue with that is that when we are referring to paragraph 827 and we're looking at the breakdown, it is actually saying that the contracted employees, the authorized number was 70. The filled positions was actually 51, which was a decrease by 19. The report also said, made reference at 828, saying that as can be noted from the above table, contracted employees, which included additions for the year, accounted for 13% of the total employees. But I'm noting that that 13% that has been referred to was actually with reference to the column filled for 2016, which was only 51. And that would have been 13% of the 392. However, the authorized figures for 2016 for contracted employees was 70, which would actually be a percentage of 22.5 of the 311 that it should be. So I'm trying to understand what was the issue that the AG's office is bringing out with this number. Why is it referring to the 13% as an addition when we're seeing that the authorized number was 70, the filled was 51, and according to the table here, that was a decrease by 19%.
Okay, let me ask.
19, not 19%.
Okay, AG, can you provide a response to the members' query?
I'll ask the manager to provide it.
Through the chair, good morning, everyone. During the year, as the figure shows in the table there, in the total there is a reduction, yes. But what happened there? There were movements in that category whereby you had employees going over into fixed and you have new employees coming in.
No, but my concern is that we are reporting this as an increase as though it was going beyond the actual authorized amount, and it was a great deal. It was 19, actually 19 under. So I want to know what was the actual query that the audit office is highlighting there specifically, because I understand that there was some movement, but what was the issue?
Through the chair.
Could you please indicate your name for the clerk to record it?
Wazir Shakir, audit manager. Akin.
Could you repeat it slowly?
Wazir Shakir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. That first thing, ma'am, the figure there, it shouldn't. That's a typo with additions.
I don't think, I get that, right? But I don't see it as a typo. It's incorrect because the whole paragraph is just referring to this as an increase. That is the query that is being brought before us. That is an increase, and it wasn't. So I don't know how we're going to look at that paragraph per se.
We leave that paragraph open until AG.
Mr. Chair, the major question here is at 828, where we are saying that you had 51 employees on contract, and therefore those above 45, below 45 should move to the pension as such. So what instead of addition, it should be a decrease of 13%.
So we can,
Sorry, Dorita.
yeah, just, Madam,
Go ahead, madam.
okay. Now that we've clarified that, the AG is saying right here that it should be a decrease, which is correct. Now, looking at the responses that was given for these two particular paragraphs, I think this is where I'm going to direct my question through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So the
Aria.
accounting officer, the responses that we got for those two paragraphs was a breakdown in why there was this variation of 92 above the 311 that was actually authorized for 2016. And I see the response saying that the expenditure listed on our account code 6211 as employment costs was actually payment of stipend to 13 regional democratic councillors, 30 to show and vice to show, and 6 senior councillors. That is 49. And it also went on to say that the remaining 27 was 13 temporary qualified teachers and 14 acting teachers appointed by the Teaching Service Commission. Was this actually recorded? I'm a little confused as to how this record was done. If you can shed some light, accounting officer, through the chair.
Well, the information here would have been what was garnered from our files. We would not be able to employ people without having the relevant authority from the agencies concerned. And these are the facts as they were then.
Madam Finance, are you?
Sir, that doesn't answer the question at all, because we're looking at, all right, forget about the responses. We're looking at the query from the audit office. The query from the audit office is saying that in 2016, there was an authorized number for 311 persons for region number 8. It is also saying that when the audit was done, they found it wasn't 311, but they had 392, which they had an excess of 82. So what I can ask the accounting officer is, where did these persons come from? Why was it recorded the way in which it was recorded?
Mr. Chairman, I tried to explain how we came up with these numbers. They're from our records. And the explanation would have shown where the excesses would have been.
Could you for the members read the explanation provided for her?
The expenditure listed on the account code 6211 as employment costs. As you would look at the table, there is a 6211 listed there as employment costs. Was actually payment of stipend to 13 regional democratic councillors, 32,000 vice 2,000, and 6 senior councillors, totaling 49 persons. Expenditure listed under code 6284 was stipend paid to 6 sweeper cleaners of schools. These two account codes are not employment costs, but other charges expenditure. The additional 27 employees above the authorized strength comprised of 13 temporary qualified teachers and 14 acting teachers appointed by the Teaching Service Commission and sent to the region school.
Member Finance, you heard the REO's response.
Sir, the REO was going through the breakdown as it is here, but where did the permission come from for them to exceed the actual 311 that was authorized for the region? I think that is the online question altogether.
REO, are you in possession of that document that gave the authority for the employing of these employees? Additional employees?
Without that authority, they would not have been able to get onto the pay sheets. They would not have been able to get onto the payroll.
Which brings my Which brings me to the ultimate question. Why is it in the as an audit query if there was permission given for these things to be done? That is my ultimate question that I'm coming to solve.
Yes. Mario?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if I could answer that.
With office.
I think I'm
Okay,
saying.
can I redirect that question to the Auditor General? AG?
Mr. Chair, what the REO need to provide for us is the information in respect of the two people that they have gone over the authorized strength. In other words, they have to provide all these, the Teaching Service Commission, date of employment and others, so that we could verify the increase. Of which I think for the 6 alone was for standard 6211, and then we have the 29 under 6115, etc. So those are the I want to
Can I
provide.
come in here? Can I come in here, Mr. Chairman?
One second, Madam Chair.
If I may just wrap up my line of questioning. So I just want to be clear with this. So for the accounting officer, you're saying obviously there was, based on your response, you're saying that there was permission granted and the audit office is saying those documentations needs to be provided. So sorry, I'm seeing like there's a disconnect between the accounting officer, the actual documentation in their possession and the report that is before us. And because of that, both paragraph 227 and 228, I'm left with unanswered questions even at this stage. So how do we move forward from this?
Mr. Chairman, I understand that there must have been some sort of authorization. We will seek to get the relevant documentation and forward to the Auditor General's office and to you, sir. But again, I'm saying there could have been no addition to the salaries payroll without that form of authorization. So I'm positive that we do have this.
Would a week suffice?
Sure. Yes, sir.
Sir, on that note, I'm requesting that both paragraphs are left open because there's no definitive answer. And please, and with us noting the correction that was made that there was not an increase and it was actually a decrease.
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Chair,
Chairman, I'm waiting to come in.
you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that we're getting mixed up on a number of things with 827. And I think that briefing notes of the Auditor General does not get to the actual crux of the matter. There were 82 additional people that were not authorized. However, when you look at the answer from the former REO, he's talking about persons who should not be in that category, 827. Two showers and other people are usually catered for under another heading in the region budgets. It's a standard head. I've forgotten if it's 6211 or another one that exclusively deals with the two showers.
This year.
Beg your pardon?
That is the line item those employees allegedly came under.
Yeah, but it can't be right because it says 86211 is 46. But they're not 46 two showers in region 1 as far as I know. But there may have been, I think one of the things I want to ask the Auditor General is that one, was part of the problem that persons were being paid under the incorrect heading or group. Secondly, to do with 828, language again, Auditor General. As can be noted from the table above, contracted employees, which included additions for the year, accounted for 13%. If I understand what I think the auditor meant to write was that the contracted employees in 2006 accounted for 13%, not that they accounted for additions. So that, in other words, the way the sentence is written, that's why Ms. Finance asked the question she does. But clearly it can't be that. And therefore, again, that sentence, we raise again clarity in the language of the Auditor General. contracted employees included 13% of the total employees. That's just a fact. That's not an issue. But when you read the briefing notes, the issue that is raised in 827 is nothing to do with the issues either that Ms. Fernandez or myself are raising. It's the issue of moving eligible employees over to the permanent establishment, which in fact isn't even, makes no sense because 827 and 828 don't refer to that. The other thing is 830 may give a clue to why the issues are being flagged by the Auditor General. And this is where 15 personal files belonging to both public officers and teachers revealed applications, no application letters, no curriculum vitae were seen in the files, etc. So the issue of authorization to pay seems to have been queried because there were 15 persons. So going back to what the REO said about authorization, in 830, paragraph 830, there was no authorization to pay or to have these persons on the establishment. And so I think this is where the crux of the matter comes, not only the 92, but of the, 82, but of the 82, how many were authorized? And in 830, it indicates that 15 were not. There's no evidence, no documents to show that they were authorized. So I think that there's a mismatch between the questions being posed in the briefing notes from the Auditor General and the answers of what the language says in 827 and 828.
Noted. Member Maipo.
Chair, I want to add to this discussion. I am noticing that we're talking here in the Auditor General's report about 46 expenses relating to the entity under 6211. And in the explanation or in the answer that was provided by the accounting officer, they speak to 49. So there's a difference there of 3, which I need to know why the Auditor General's report is telling me 46 persons. And the answer from the REO is telling me 49. And under 6284, we speak about stipends to sweep.
Can we deal with the first question first? REO, and how is it that your numbers is different from the Auditor General?
Mr. Chairman, our numbers were called from the personnel department and the accounts department. These are the figures that they gave me in relation to 2016.
Thank you.
All right. So
AG, hold on. AG, could you provide a response?
Mr. Chair, I'll have to reconcile it back to this figure in order to see wage difference. Because we would also use the December people to arrive at those.
but greater than that, Chair, is that this, and we keep making this point, this information can only come into this Auditor General's report once there is a communication between the region and the audit office. So this number 46 was actually seen by the region before it reaches here.
Well, based on what the RE is saying, he was guided by his personnel's record at the RDC, which should have gone to the audit office as well for them to do their query.
So, sir, may I ask the question? Can I ask the accounting officer as to his date of employment in the region?
Are you?
I commenced on the 1st of March of this year.
1st of March 2021. Can I ask if there was a meeting between the former REO that served in the region in 2016 and the current REO in the region?
Mr. Chairman, no.
Can I ask for a reason?
I cannot ascertain the whereabouts of the the regional executive officer who was there in 2016.
May I ask if the regional executive officer that was there in 2016 was invited to participate in this PAC?
The gentleman cannot be located.
I'm not finished, sir. Can I ask, Chair, if the REO that was a part of, if the REO that was serving in 2016 was invited and if he responded?
No invitation was extended because based on information from the clerk, they had no information about his whereabouts.
Sir, sorry.
Just in addition to that, sir, I think the PAC is of the understanding that when we're sending out invitation for persons to attend, we utilize their official address, and we also send to their most recent known address. So we cannot at any point in time send no invitation out.
Well, the last known address the PSC usually would have used to send information concerning that area was the RDC.
So okay, so my question now would be, is the RDC the registered address for this individual?
No, I'm saying they never had cause to send it to his home address because all correspondence to the regional executive office used to be sent to the RDC. So the PSC was unaware of where the individual lived because all of the correspondence for that particular region was sent to the region.
I understand that, sir, but my point is that even if that is so, once the individual have a registered address in the country, then that address needs to be utilized to send out info. At no point in time we cannot not send out a correspondence. We need to have that sent out. We can have it returned if the person is no longer living there, but it needs to be sent to that address. I think that was an understanding.
Sir, I want to support
correspondent was prepared to send to the REO, but the clerk of the committee was unaware of his address. But what she was knowledgeable of is where it used to be sent. So she could not have sent it out because his whereabouts is unknown. Go ahead, Mr. Maipo.
Sir, I was going to turn my attention to paragraph 831.
Chair, I'd like to.
Listen,
Can I suggest something before you move on, Maipo?
Yes, ma'am. I have no problem with that.
Mr. Chair, we're having problems with almost every region with not finding, or PSs not finding former PS scenario. Can I suggest that where we don't have an address, that we put an ad in the radio or something, inviting him to the meeting? So that it goes on radio. I think most people listen to that, or on the Parliament website or something, just inviting them to come at a particular date without making it look as if you're putting out a police warning or a police wanted bulletin.
Yeah, that can be done, Madam Chair. Good suggestion. Dr. Mario, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I wanted to say what Committee Chair said, plus we could maybe put it also in the newspapers, and that we'll be having this meeting and the following officers is supposed to
Okay, Madam Chair's proposal will be amended to also include the use of the newspaper.
Thanks, Mr. Chair.
All media.
Mr. Chair, could I go to 8:30?
Proceed.
So here we have a situation where, as far as I could see here, due diligence was not done before these persons were employed because files, there are no police clearances, references, and apparently even the application letters were not seen there with the CVs. So could the accounting officer were these persons really qualified for the positions? Have their files been updated? And what systems are in place to prevent this happening in the future?
I'm advised by the personnel department that these matters have been addressed and all files are in order at the moment. In relation to the qualifications of the prospective employees, I cannot say anything on that.
Chair, Chair, thank you very much for the floor.
Proceed.
May I ask the accounting officer, the personnel officer, is your personnel officer here with you, sir?
Mr. Chairman, no.
Has your personnel officer been employed with the regions during this year? Was that the same personnel officer that you have there? Is that the personnel officer that was there in 2016?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I will need to know why is it that the personnel officer basically facilitated this without ensuring that the relevant documents are there, because the personnel officer plays a great role in actually giving what I would...
But don't let us assume. Ario, can you verify if the relevant documents give guidance to the personnel officer doing what she did, or he, whoever the person is?
Mr. Chairman, no, I cannot verify.
No, you can inquire from the personnel officer if there was official documentation that led her to make these employments possible.
I certainly can. I could be.
And can that be provided to the PSC within a week's time?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead,
Sir,
Michael.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I turn my attention to...
Mr. Chairman, before you move on.
You have a follow-up on that same?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, what I wanted to ask, isn't there a standard that the personnel officer, isn't there a standard process and a standard checklist of documents at least that should be done? And if that is so, how is it that the application letters or CVs, so where did people come from? What the issue? So if I can ask the accounting officer, isn't there and even if not a formal list, an expectation that you would at least have the application letters and the CVs? Because this is saying that there were no application letters in the files, there are no CVs in the files. Forget the police clearances and so, which might come subsequent to that happen.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sure that there would be some list of requirements. I cannot answer for the reason as to why those documents would have been missing, but I was assured that they're all in order as is at the moment.
I am seeing...
Mr. Chair, if I may just follow up. So basically,
Go ahead, Dr.
this
Mali.
is a case of persons being employed on the job, and then they write an application.
Let us not make assumptions. Ario has
that's-
committed. Hold on. Ario has committed to getting the ascertaining from the personnel officer if there was official documentation that allowed her to make those employments possible. So let us give him a week to provide the PSC their response.
But
Mr.
sir,
Chairman, can I just ask a follow-up question?
I'm on the same...
that?
Hold on, my
Yes,
person.
if possible.
We have to be mindful that it says here an audit scrutiny of 15 personal files belonging to both public officers and teachers. Now, teachers are employed through the Teaching Service Commission, and the Teaching Service Commission would have that file of them, their application letter, and all the necessary documentation. Then the Teaching Service Commission will issue them with a letter that goes to the regional administration, and that letter is kept in the file of the regional administration. The regional administration will then request their documents, copies of their documents for them to file. The question here has to be, did the region request of these teachers their copies of their CXC or whatever other documents they have to, when they open this file now, they have those documents to put for the teachers, because at the end of the day, the teachers will have their file, I'm assuming, at Teaching Service Commission too. So that also needs to be taken into account here as to whether the administration of the region really did what they had to do to ensure that they have a record of their employees.
If I may, Chair, but the teacher, it means therefore that a teacher goes with a letter to the region to be employed.
Yes.
So I would like to ask the Auditor General's office whether they would have seen such letters there as proof of them of valid or
So there is no possibility. Well, I shouldn't say no possibility. There's a great possibility that the reason why the AG is saying that there was no application letters nor curriculum vitae were not seen in the files belonging to 7 employees. Now, we don't know if the 7 employees he speak of here are teachers or public officers. And also, then there are also cases where persons are seconded from ministries to regions. And that also has to be considered.
I agree, but there seems to be a pattern, and I would have observed it with different accounting officers who cannot provide the audit office with information, as if that's the only source of the information. Now, if the audit office needs certain information of employees from the RDC, for example, teachers, of who the Teaching Service Commission plays a role in employing them. If the RDC is not in possession of it, it could be procured from the Teaching Service Commission. So this ad hoc way of collection of data for the audit office need to be corrected. If the audit office requests certain information, the RDC is not in possession of it, the RDC can source it from different agencies and provide it to the audit office so that they could do the work properly. So these questions won't be... Madam, to share your audit.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I ask a question on the same 830? If it is that documents were missing from the files, how did the region have the authority to pay these 15 people? Or is it that the authority was in the file, but not these other issues that the Auditor General is referring to? I'm trying to get at what is it, because for me, if the letters authorizing them to pay from teaching service and commission, etc., not in the files, then the region was unauthorizedly paying. And how were they doing that when the releases have to go through the Accountant General's department? So I'm a little bit concerned about what, to me, is the bigger gravamen, and that is that the region may have been paying unauthorizedly. So is that the issue here, or is it just the Auditor General saying, we saw the authority, they were paying authorizedly, it's just these other documents were not in the file? Which is it? Again, we have to be specific when we're bringing things to the PAC.
Mr. Chair? It's a follow-up to what Madam Chair just alluded to with regards to the approvals from the various authorities, TSC, Public Service Ministry, as well as the Public Service Commission. Those approvals are seen and verified by the Ministry of Finance before an employee is placed on the various payrolls for the respective agencies.
So as a follow-up, Mr. Chairman, can the Auditor General then clarify for us, was the issue here that the region was unauthorizedly paying, or that the files were incomplete and that the authorities were in the file, but not these additional letters, information, application letters, CVs, police clearance? Which is the critical issue we're addressing here in this paragraph, because we are not clear?
Mr. Chair, what we are saying is that the files were incomplete, but we would have seen certain documents in terms of the actual employment letter. But in addition to that, you're also supposed to have the application reference, etc. For example, some of the people that we talked about is not only teachers, like they are extremely technician, a mechanic, a laborer, etc., which would have been employed by the region.
how many of those 15 people were not teachers, Mr. Auditor General?
About 11.
So 11 of the 15 were hired by the region without any documentation being seen in the files.
No,
Is that
you would,
correct?
no, you would have seen the actual employment letter because they cannot get on the payroll unless they have that. But when you examine the file, we did not see the police clearance or the application letter or the CV.
So the issue has to be an administrative issue and a communication issue between the region and your office. Because when you picked up this error, you would have forwarded it to the region for clarification before it got into this report.
In addition
So
to that,
I would expect, exactly, and I would have expected, well, I would expect that the RU will inform his heads of department that, you know what, this is an issue the AG flagged. The AG flagged the issue of there not being application letters nor curriculum vitae, there not being police clearances and references for officers. And then the region would have to provide an explanation to you as to why they don't have it. And part of that explanation, I suppose, would have had to be that the teachers were employed by Teaching Service Commission or the Public Service Commission has their record and file, and it would not have appeared in your report if that explanation was provided. Now the question is, was an explanation provided? And the answer is no, because it appears in the Auditor General's report. And even if an explanation was provided, it is not one that is sufficient in the eyes of the AG to clear it. And that is why it appears here. So I think we need to know definitively if the region has their files up to date for all their employees. And we need to know if the region has seriously considered these findings so as to correct the mistake. And I am sure if we are to examine 2017, 2018, then we would know if there were any actions, because if there weren't, then it would have obviously been repeated in 2017 and 2018. Am I correct, AG? Thank you. So, sir, I think it is an issue of administrative management and also an issue of communication between the AG's office and the region. So I believe that the region should take note that there needs to be better communication with them and the AG's office.
Mr. Chair, also at the exit conference, the region said that the head of budget agency stated that efforts will be made.
Which paragraph?
Paragraph 830. You have the region response to quote there. They said the head of budget indicated that efforts will be made to follow up the missing documentation from the files.
Which means there were no documentation. And if they indicate this.
Madam Finance.
Sir, if I may, I don't want the point to get lost. I think for clarity and simplicity, sir, I think what we realize here is, again, and this goes to the wording of the actual report, because when we are examining this report, one would have the impression that these things didn't exist altogether. But as we have clearly highlighted, there's a process on actually getting these persons on the payroll in the first place. Documentation had to be processed. The Ministry of Finance had to have certain documentation in order for them to be listed on the payroll and all that. So what we're getting to right now is that this report is actually highlighting record keeping, failure in record keeping altogether. And that is what it is, and not actually, there's actually no evidence that, well, these things were not done, they never existed. What the report is actually highlighting, based on all the conversation, discussions that are going on right now, is that, oh, well, this was missing from a file and all of that. Yeah. So let us not just stray away from what it actually is that is being highlighted here right now.
And I'm glad that you made that point, member. So, AG, I think what could be considered from your office in doing when you consult with the different agencies that has shortcomings with regards to providing you with the necessary information, probably your office could direct them to where they could ascertain the information so that they could provide you rather than you doing the work, because the region's supposed to have these information, and if they're not in possession of it, they could still have access to the information. So rather than you having to complete your work and then we have to have these deliberations at the PSC, when the information could have been ascertained if they were directed into the right direction of where they could have the information, then I think your work would be done much easier. So I would like to strongly recommend that you provide them with that direction so that they
Mr.
could.
Chairman, just let me clarify something. When the audit is done, the Auditor General will say when I'm wrong, but when the audit is done, the Auditor General sends a management letter to every PS and REO. They have a time within which to answer before the document, the Auditor General's annual report, is printed. So at the point of printing, the REO at the time said they would investigate and find the documents. And that is what is in the report, and that's what we're dealing with. And although the document we have from the region says that the matter has been sorted out, the issue is that all files are not properly maintained, but what we don't know is when that took place. So the Auditor General cannot preempt a response or an anticipation of a response by a REO or PS. The management letter is detailed enough to every PS and REO. They have time to answer. If they don't, or if they just say they're going to search for it and look for it and so on, then that's what goes into the report. It can't, the Auditor General cannot predict what he thinks will happen. He can only deal with what has happened. And as of 2016, the REO said that they would, efforts will be made to follow up on the missing documentation. That's what was said on 8/30. And he can't do more than that. It's only when it comes to 2017 audit that the issue is flagged again, and hopefully the REO will answer appropriately then.
REO? AG?
Mr. Chair, the management letter was sent, the details appendix was sent to the accounting officer, and also they were given 30 days into which to respond. So all of that we do, and we do guide them where they could get this information. For the present REO, we'll have to reconcile their information. When he said that the files are updated, I don't know if he's talking about these parts, 15 that you're referencing. So when we go back and visit the region, we do not have fixed staff in Region 8. So we normally go in and do the audit and then come out. So when we go back again, we check to see if these files have been updated.
Okay. Member Maivo?
Yes, sir. Sir, I'm going to para 831.
Before you go to 831, can we deal with 830, please? Sorry,
Yeah.
831, yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Member Maivo, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I think I need to read this because it's worrying in my view. It says a sum of 508.574 million was budgeted for in 2016 for office and field supplies. During the year 2016, amounts totaling 483.874 million were expended. A sample of 69 payment vouchers totaling 81.411 million were chosen for audit examination, and the following discrepancies were revealed. A check number 793752 dated 29 July 2016 for 2.432 million was encashed by a supplier residing in Perico. Inclusive in this sum is an amount of 1.934 million in relation to field items purchased. However, the payment voucher bore no evidence of Accountant General's examination, no check number, no evidence of the items being entered into the goods received book, nor any evidence of regional tender board approval. However, this voucher was passed for payment. In addition, audit checks revealed that the prices quoted for item on the requisition to purchase were higher than other suppliers that the regional administration usually purchase from. There were 60 payments totaling 33.663 million relating to purchases from the same supplier mentioned above. However, only 10 of these payment vouchers totaling 9.5 million were presented for audit examination. At the time of reporting in September 2017, the audit office was conducting further investigation into this matter. And the payment voucher number 78A1887 and number 78A1888 amounting to $187,612 and $497,995 respectively bore no evidence of being examined by the Accountant General Department. I note, sir, that in the region's report, in the region's answering, they said that the Office of the Auditor General conducted a special audit with specific recommendations to the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Communities then. And so I want to know, I want to have a look, sir. I would like to request a copy of the special audit that was done for this matter. I want to know also, how is this possible? And the region, in my view, has a sub-treasury, and that sub-treasury department is the one that is basically responsible for action in the sense of when the payment voucher comes to them, they verify all of these documents to ensure that the payment voucher is satisfied before they move to the Ministry of Finance for the cutting of a check. And then it comes back to the region, the sub-treasury department, and then it's paid to the contractor. So with such a system in place, which I thought was a stringent system, how is it that this happened? And what measures are in place to ensure that this does not reoccur? Is there a change in the existing system? And this payment voucher had to pass through a number of hands at the level of the region. At the level of the region, this payment voucher had to pass through a number of hands. For example, you're talking here about office and field supply. The procurement department of the region had to play a role. Somebody had to go and get quotations.
All right. Ario, could you provide a response to the member's question? What system has been put in place?
No, not what system has been put in place as yet, sir. How was this possible?
Okay. Ario?
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, I would imagine that was the reason for the special audit. How did it happen? I can't say. But the special audit, I'm sure, is going to bring us up to...
I agree. And Mr. Maipo, your
request... No, but sir, the special audit, is the Ario saying to us that he did not see the special audit either? Because this is since 2016. Yeah. I understand exactly what the Ario is saying.
Have you seen the special audit, sir?
Yes, I saw this.
And what did the special audit say?
I have copies of the special audit here.
Yes, but what is
specifically with respect
to... It made recommendations in relation to what took place, and recommendations to correcting the anomalies and the shortcomings, and it referred to the police being called in.
Sir, I understand what the Ario is saying. He indicated that he saw the special audit. The special audit had to identify how it happened. I am assuming the Ario read the special audit and would have seen how this thing happened. So the question is, how did it happen?
Ario?
Well, it happened because procedures were not followed. and things were done in a very unprofessional manner. That's the reason it happened. The checks and balances were all thrown through the window.
That is your comments are
Chairman.
Hold on, sir. Your comments are is that reflected in the special audits report?
Mr. Chairman, the special audit report was very clear and very precise and detailed. And it did highlight the shortcomings in every transaction, which were breaches of all the regulations.
Are you saying you are in possession of that report right here and now?
Yes, sir.
Can you provide the committee that report so that we could get it copied for all of the members?
Comrade Chairman,
Go ahead.
Chair,
I would like to ask the Accountant General. In fact, I wanted to go a little bit deeper with the region, but for the sake of having copies of the report, I will request that this paragraph be left open. So after reading the report, I'm sure I will have some more questions for the accounting officer. But I want to turn to the Accountant General because, well, I think the Accountant General knows what line I'm going down. So I'm going to ask the Accountant General to provide some clarity here.
To the chair.
Yes, it.
This particular matter, it was a total breach, and one would assume based on the investigation of the General, there was collusion at the time. And this matter was put before the Guyana Police Force itself, but unfortunately the person was not charged.
Person or
Was not charged.
The person as in
police
one
matter.
person?
It was a police matter based on the Auditor General. It was a police matter, but the person, nobody was charged in
Okay.
this matter.
But AG, how is it?
Could I ask when that when the matter went to the police and if there were any reasons given for why no one was charged? Was that a matter that went to the DPP as well?
I believe that would be in the report that the REO would have provided, and every member will have a copy of that report.
So, Chairman, now for the next question. What measure do we have in place to stop this from reoccurring? Because I'm still baffled as to how 2 checks can be cut. Well, I'm assuming it's from your department, the Accountant General's department, that these 2 checks were cut. And I know that the system is so rigid that unless the Sub-Treasury Department verifies that everything is okay, they don't move to your chambers.
As I indicated early on, this matter, there was collusion.
I'm not hearing you clearly.
I said that there was collusion, and we know it's a breach.
Oh, we're
So that is why it was
collusion.
sent it to the police.
That's why the police were involved.
Well, I
Police
figure,
was
sir,
in charge.
after reading the report, I may have some more questions. But for now, I'll ask that it be, I will rest
Yeah.
my questioning on it, but ask for the paragraph to be left.
No problem.
Ario, with respect to the question by member Mike Paul, what systems were put in place so that this won't be a reoccurrence?
Mr. Chairman, the systems has always been in place. That's why we could talk of breaches, because there are systems in place. We have adhered to the guidelines and the systems, and we are following through on what the requirements are.
Yes, we are aware that there were systems in place. That's why the breach was identified. The question is, how are we going to ensure that no one breached the system? Are you going to ensure that there's check and balance in every step of the way so that we ensure that this don't occur? We know that there's a system in place, are you? So I'm asking, having realized this and having acknowledged that there's a system that was breached, how are you going to remedy this from happening again?
Well, the remedy is in reverting to the proven guidelines that were there prior to 2016. We have been doing diet-free for years in the region because we have dormitory schools and hospitals. And prior to 2016, I cannot recall an incident of this magnitude or nature. That is why I'm saying there's tried and proven methodologies of going about these things, which we are and we have reverted to post 2016, 17.
Member Ario, numerous accounting officers have come to this committee, and with all of the various systems in place, many breaches would have occurred. The committee, the audit office, the finance secretary, all advisors would have proper solutions and advice to those accounting officers to put measures in place to foolproof the system that exists. And I'm asking you, sir, what systems are you putting in place as the accounting officer to ensure that the system is foolproof? Because we have experienced at this PSC many breaches and persons not following those systems that are in place. And in those regard, the committee would have provided recommendations to strengthen the system, as well as all of the advisors here. So I'm asking you, as the accounting officer, what systems are you going to be putting in place to ensure that this doesn't be a reoccurrence?
Well, Mr. Chairman, given the fact that we're looking at 2016, 5 years ago, and given the fact that I am unaware of any other major breaches, if we should peruse the Auditor General's report, it will tell us, and that will signal to us that at least these existing systems are working.
So there's no need for you to do anything.
There's always room for improvement, sir. Always. We always look to improve and to ensure that we could do all the checks and balances necessary.
Sir, I neighbor this go wrong, come wrong. We have an issue here, and we're looking for a direct answer as to what was done to ensure that this does not reoccur. It happened in 2016. We're not looking at the 2017 report. We're not looking at the 2018 or the 2019, nor the 2020, which I'm eagerly awaiting for. And I know that this is a matter that would not have just been left at the level of the region, because these regions, they fall also under the Ministry of Communities at the time. I have noticed that we have the former PS of the Ministry of Communities here, Mr. Emil Magarel, and I would like to seek your permission to get some answers from him and what he is aware of with reference to this, when it was corrected and what action was taken to ensure that there's no reoccurrence. Because honestly, I never this go wrong, come wrong. So can we please, sir, with your permission, invite Mr. Magarel to say if anything was done?
Yes, Magarel, are you online? Go ahead, ma'am, PS Magarel.
Mr. Chairman, members of the PAC, Arios, PS, good morning. Please forgive me if you're hearing much noise in the background. I am actually out on the road. And are you hearing me clearly?
Yes.
Sir, go ahead.
Thank you very much. With respect to the matter before the PAC, the paragraph before the PAC in regards to what was done to correct the situation that led to the breach that necessitated a special report and referring the matter to the police. The situation was at the time, as I suppose is still a challenge in Region 8, to get adequate staff and competent staff to the region. In that particular situation, in the accounts department at the time, you had one officer at the level, I think, of an assistant accountant, carrying out the duties of accountant and chief accountant, that this created the conditions that led to that situation. So what, following the special report was done, an effort was made to recruit retired chief accountants who would have left the system by way of retirement, but still able to perform some of the duties, so as to have a chief accountant appointed, so we could have the necessary, what I think the accounts people refer to, segregation of duties, so that the correct system could have been in place. And so that is what was done to try and provide the region, the accounting unit in particular, with the necessary resources to carry out its fiduciary, its accounting responsibilities. So that was the situation. Because we continued in that particular region to have a big challenge of finding staff to fill the positions. We only had at the time, and for a number of years prior to that, one officer carrying out the duties two levels above, accountant and chief accountant. And that created a condition. And that was reversed, and we were able to secure the services of a retired chief accountant who, on a contract, went to Region 8, and we tried to have that segregation of responsibilities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. With the response, sir, that is coming from the former RU. Former PS, rather. Sir, my question right now is, how many members of staff right now do we have that was today that was a part of the team in 2016?
Ario?
One member here who would have been there during that period, Mr. Lachin Singh, the engineer.
And what was the portfolio remains the same, sir, of that member of staff?
Yes.
Member Siraj.
Excuse me, sir. Mr. Chairman, excuse me.
Yes.
Does the member referring to the account staff or generally? Is the general people and staff at that time?
No, you brought a team of persons with you, sir, through the chair. So I'm asking, of the team of persons present here today, was there anyone that was there in 2016? And if so, what was their portfolio in 2016 as against their portfolio now?
Yeah, but the question is if the team, if the team that is accompanying the REO was in the employ of the region in 2016, or is members of the team that you're referencing in the accounts department at the time? Which was the question? Is it employee of the RDC or the accounts department?
No, I'm sorry if there's someone here right now that was a part of the RDC and not the accounts department. I still would like to know that.
Oh, yes. Are there any employees here who are employees in 2016?
Yes, as I said, one, Mr. Lachin.
Only one.
Singh.
And his portfolio remains the same, you're saying? And what was that?
He's a civil engineer.
He's the engineer. Was he the only engineer back then in 2016?
Yes.
And he remains the only engineer there right now?
No.
How many engineers are there now?
Two. We have two engineers.
When was the other one employed, if I may?
2017. And he's the regional engineer.
So he's in charge of the department now?
As of now.
Yeah. So, sir, just so we're clear, in 2017, you said the other engineer was employed?
He was transferred to the region in 2017.
In 2017, and he is in charge. So prior to that, based on my understanding, the other engineer that is here present here was the only engineer, and he was the one that was basically with himself. He was in charge of the entire department on his own.
He would have had other employees there, but yes, he would have been the most senior person in the Department of Works at that time.
And clerk of works and so forth.
Yeah.
All right.
Member Siraj?
Can I ask? Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Comrade Chairman. So, this particular paragraph, the Auditor General obviously would have highlighted a number of breaches of established rules and regulation that governs the way this department and the REO's office would have operated. The accounting officer at that time, I noticed here is some Raphael Downs, if I pronounce the name correctly. And the breaches were so numerous that it entails a special investigation. And with the result of which would have been communicated to the then permanent secretary, Mr. Emil Magarel. So I'm certain that and as you note here, the staff in complement, obviously we discussed that before, would have been a little bit more than the established authorized staff strength. So it wasn't a matter of not enough staff. And I'm certain that you would have had a number of staff coming over from 2015 into 2016. And the amount of discrepancies discovered obviously does not point to my mind to in the direction of people not being aware of what needs to be done. But clearly these breaches were deliberately done, flouting the established rules and regulation established. And because they would have been staff, they would have been in the employee of the region prior to 2016. And well, regardless if they had one or not, the staff complement shows that you had more than the established trend. So obviously, sir, a lot of things happen here, and I wonder if former permanent secretary, Mr. Magarel, would also be in possession of the special audit report, since apparently it was commissioned by him, or the special audit would have made specific recommendation to the then permanent secretary. If the findings of the special audit would have pointed in the direction of any negligences, criminal in nature, given the extent of the breaches that occurred in the region at that time.
Sorry, if I may clarify one thing before that response is given.
Yes.
Sorry, just one clarification as to the statement by my colleague, is that the additions for the staff that he referenced was actually broken down in the response from the region, and it spoke to regional democratic councillors, Tushos and vice Tushos, senior councillors, temporary qualified teachers. Those were the actual breakdown of it. So that those additions that he's referring to would not have any impact on the body that is responsible for the financial upkeep.
Member.
Obviously, Mr. Chairman, the accounting officer would have been appointed as REO because of some amount of competence. And these breaches are very glaring in nature.
P.S. Magarel.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr.
I thank the member for his query. The determination.
We're losing Mr. McGarrell. We're not hearing Mr. McGarrell.
Mr. Magarel.
The special audit. The special audit. The special audit. Hello?
Lost you. We didn't get you from the beginning. Could you repeat what you were saying?
Hello?
Yes, we didn't hear anything you were saying. I was indicating this.
I apologize. It's the vicissitude of the connection services that we have. I was in responding to the member query in regards to the criminal. the Auditor General, at the advice of the Auditor General. And that's how the matter ended up there. And AG correctly indicated that once it got there, it is then in the hand of the police to do their investigation and to take their actions necessary. Until we have a matter where a person is brought before a court, the public service rules would have dictated that whoever the officers involved, officer or officers involved, had to still remain in the system. Administratively, you'll have tried some way to manage their involvement, but you cannot do anything until a determination is made by the police, and that never came with respect to this matter. But it was referred to the Guyana Police Force for action on the advice of the Auditor General.
Thank you.
Can I have a follow-up, Mr. Chair, to the former PS? Is the PS saying that as a result of a special audit that shows rather serious breaches, that there was no administrative mechanism available to him to send that person on administrative leave pending the investigation by the police? Because I am aware of that alternative. Pending the police investigation, an officer can be sent on administrative leave, and if they're found they're charged, then they're sent on, they're interdicted, and they only receive 1/3 or 2/3 of their salary until they're found guilty or not guilty by a court of law. So is the former PS telling us that the persons who were involved in this breach, that nothing was done to them and they continued in this system? Is that so? And are they still in the system, in some part of the government system?
Mr. Chairman, thanks, Member Teixeira, for the question. It's correct. The problem you had at Region 8, and I suspect it probably still exists, though we did make some effort to correct it, we were not finding staff to get to the accounts department in Region 8. And you could not have left the department without officers to carry out the duties, because that would have slowed up the entire program. So we did take some administrative measures in terms of having someone there temporary, remove the person from the region to operate from Georgetown, a little bit closer supervision, because they had to come to town anyway to process the vouchers and the like at the Ministry of Finance. And as I indicated, we were thankful that we were able to secure the services of our chief accountant so as to bring the necessary oversight to alleviate the problem. But the big issue you had in Region 8 is finding staff to go there to work. And that was a problem that predated these issues for some time afterwards. And so, yes, Madam Chair, Member Teixeira, the actions that were taken were somewhat administrative, but they could not have removed, the decision was taken not to remove because we did not want to leave the department without an opportunity for the function of the department to carry out and the programs of the region to be carried out.
Can I ask a follow-up question, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
I understand the difficulties of Region 8, but are you telling me and this committee that the REO, who was a chief accounting officer, who under his watch, these breaches took place, that nothing happened to him, that he wasn't moved, he wasn't sent on leave, he continued? And are you saying that the public service is so devoid of taking someone from the Ministry of Local Government, a person who's already hired, and transferring them to Region 8 in the interim while you try to resolve the problem? There was nobody in the Ministry of Communities that could have been parachuted in, transferred in for 6 months until the matter was regularized and sorted out? I'm afraid I don't buy the argument that that there was nothing that could be done just because you couldn't find a chief accountant. The REO was the one oversighting all this. And you're telling me that nothing happened, and also there was no person you could send from Ministry of Communities, which is a big ministry. I know that.
Yes, Madam Chair, it was a big ministry indeed, but the paucity of skills is a specific area, and that's the area of accounting and the accounting systems that were necessary, knowledge in the accounting system that you needed to have. And at the time, at the ministry itself, we had a paucity of skills that we could have deployed there, and hence the urgent search that was needed done to find. It was recognized that what you really needed was a senior officer. That is what was not there at all. You had as I indicated, I think an assistant accountant at the time, acting 2 positions up, acting as an accounting officer and as chief accounting officer. That led to the problem. And there's where you needed to find the skill, and that skill was not at the time readily available for easy deployment in Region 8.
Mr. Chairman, thanks, former PS, Mr. McGarrell. However, you haven't answered my question about any action in relation to the RO, who was the officer. The buck stops at him or it stops at you. One of the two as chief accounting officers. So the person who oversaw was either asleep, not seeing that 66 contracts, I think it is, 60 payments were made of 33.6 million to one supplier with all the other documentation missing. Certainly the REO was either asleep or he wasn't living in the region, one of the two. And action should have been taken against him, don't you think?
Yes, Madam Member Teixeira. Mr. Chairman, action, as you would know, it eventually was taken. I think that was sometime in 2017, and that REO was replaced.
He was surprised.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, going along with what we've just received with the report, the audit report. Mr. Chairman, there are some troubling things that I want to preface with what I'm going to say. The investigation period is January 2016 to July 2017. The investigation report that we have dated, we've received today, is dated the 14th of August 2019. What was discovered in findings, paragraph 5, is during the period February 2016 to July 2017, the RDC at Region 8 made 18 payments to Mohammed Asif Salim, totaling 68.853 million for ration to the Cato school feeding program. An examination of the records revealed at Cato that they received 16.281 million. That's what was delivered. A balance of 52.572 was not delivered. Are we not feeding the children? How would this not have been addressed? How would this not have been known? So I understand that we have checks and balances in relation to paperwork and the Auditor General's involvement, but could the accounting officer say how it is from February to July that this period, this lengthy period that has gone on, how is this able to be perpetuated repeatedly? This is a service that feeds children.
Very concerning.
Sir,
Mr. Chairman, I think proper perusal of that special audit will give all the explanation.
Yeah, I understand that we would find in here complaints that it was some person named Sharon George who was doing things. Now,
the report,
I'm not asking about whoever is the individual. I am asking about the effect. The effect is the children should receive food. This is a real thing. This is not something for someone to sign in a book about. So was that not happening? And if it was not happening, then how is it goes on from January 2016 to July 2017 and no one is aware? No one has addressed it? And payments keep being made, because you could see here, every month, February, $4 million. Amount received, 825,000. That's valid. So this goes $4 million every single month. Every single month. So there is nobody is aware that this is going on. Nobody is addressing it. How could I understand all the accounting parts you're talking about, but this is a real thing. This is a thing that you would see daily.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, just
Mr. Chairman, if he could answer, what would have been the system? Who would have had to know whether these children were being fed or not? Somebody had to be checking. Somebody had to report if it was done.
Sir, it's on that same matter, if I may,
Yes,
please,
go
sir.
ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, the comments that we're getting, the question rather from my colleague on the other side is in relation to our 20-page report that just landed on our desk a few minutes ago. I haven't had the opportunity to peruse this report, and as such, I don't think we can go into a line of questioning based on this report. It would be unfair to the members of this committee, sir. But my question.
I've read it and I've perused it. You can
My
have another
question,
day.
sir, as it is, and I wasn't interrupting anyone else when you were speaking. Thank you.
You have the floor.
Thank you, sir. Sir, but as it pertains to the report that we're studying right now, my question, sir, is I am noting that this particular matter we're looking at in the 2016 report, my understanding is an unresolved matter. Questions are still outstanding and all of that. But yet I'm not seeing this matter repeating itself in the 2017 report as a prior year matter. So my question more so is to the audit office is why was this matter actually eliminated? And because if it's not in 2017 report as it is solved, how did we get to this stage that the matter is not repeating itself in the 2017 report as a prior year matter? Because this particular document that we have here is the 14th of August 2019. So I don't understand how we can have this special audit report from 2019, but this matter is not showing up. I don't know if I missed it. Please correct me. But I'm not seeing it in the 2017 report.
AG.
I think we'll have to have a session with the Public Accounts Committee members on the way I carry out my work.
It won't be.
When I'm doing an investigation, it's a police matter. I do not report the details in the AG report. All I will say is that this matter is still being investigated, because then that would, yes.
I understand that, but I'm not seeing that.
So I'm sure in the 2017 report, we would add that the matter is continued as a police report. I would just a simple paragraph. It will not have all these details as for the special investigation report. That's the way we carry it out.
Sir, I'm not seeing it there at all. And in the prior year matter is in the 2017 report is from 938 to 941. Neither of those actually mention that matter. That's why I'm asking.
I take umbrage, sir, over what was said, because it is us who are examining the 2017 report before us. I am even going through it here. And the 2017 report, AG, nothing is mentioned about it. We asked prior to this meeting, when we had previous meetings, how is it that a paragraph comes out? And we know that it comes out when it is cleared, as advised before. So I believe, because these are monies that I'm sure would have had to be repaid also, or some action, some thing would have had to be done to get back this these millions, but nothing is in your 2017 report, sir, that speaks to this matter. So the assumption would be that it is clear. Now, additionally, I will be going through the be quiet. Additionally, we will be going through the 2018 and 2019. Of course, I wouldn't see it in the 2018, I'm assuming here now. But given that this came out in the 2019, then I'm assuming it should be in the 2020. But the point is, nothing was made reference to. And I do hear you, sir, when you say through the chair that in the case of such, a paragraph would have been there to say that this matter is under investigation. But at least a repeat of the matter that speaks to 831A, B, and C, in my view, I would have seen that in your 2017, and under your recommendation or probably your comment, then you would have said that this matter is actively engaging the police. But there's nothing like that, sir. So my colleague who raised it did it on that basis.
Mr. Chair, I will just reject the 2017 report and let it get back to it.
Yeah, but that's for the 20. What report? The 2020 report?
2017.
Okay. You say you have to do a session with the PSC in which regard?
I was talking generally that how we carry out our work, what we will put in the report, what we leave out, etc.
No, but the AG said that on the basis of him making that assumption that in his report has that one paragraph. And if I'm sure if the paragraph is there, then I will happily subject myself to that session. But if it is not there, then the AG needs to look at his report closely.
Mr. Chair, my 2017 report at paragraph 887, page 388, I said, amongst totaling 258, 890 were allocated for direct supply, etc. A special investigation of the purchase of direct supply was done by the Office of Guyana and a separate report fees. So if you check at paragraph 887, page 388, it is.
Comrade Chair, with all due respect, that paragraph, this one that we're talking about here, if you look at the wording of para 831, it says the sum of 508.574 million was budgeted for in 2016 for office and field supplies. And during the year 2016, amount totaling 483.874 were expended. And then a sample of 69 payment vouchers totaling 81 million. And it goes down. It speaks to check number 793752, 2 million and how much dollars? It speaks to 60 payments totaling 33.663 million. And then it speaks to payment voucher number 78A1887, amounting to 187.612 and 497,995. The paragraph that the AG is speaking to here speaks to amounts totaling 258.890 million were allocated for dietary supplies under line item 6292, program 783, education delivery, and 784, health services. I'm saying that it gives a different impression, sir, in terms of linking this issue in line with this one. That is the point that I'm making. So yes, the language. I mean, in all fairness to AG, we may not be as accountants or financial experts, but I'm sure that I'm absolutely so certain that we know to read and comprehend. But I really took what was said earlier by the AG to my colleague.
And so may I suggest that this particular paragraph be left open until we finish perusing the actual report before us? Because we have a lot of questions that I believe will be answered in this report.
AG?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair.
AG has the floor, then I'll invite you, Mr. Paz.
No, I didn't want to ask a question. I just wanted to follow up on Madam Member Charita's thing that I mean, those of us are online haven't received the report as yet. So obviously, I don't think you should be. We haven't received any copies of the report as yet.
Yes, I agree. We no longer will be facilitating any question on the report because of that very reason. Yes, AG.
There, where the linkage is actually dietary supply. And that is why I linked it. Because it was on dietary supply that we had a query. So as I said, that is what I wanted to say was in terms of a session, is to have a session in terms of what are the little items, how I presented my report so that we could understand it or faster in terms of that was the link, because it was both of them on the dietary supply, the line item.
Yeah, but I agreed, AG. But however, they in perusing the report, time and time again, the reference of how the report in some instances are presented is what caused the problem. The language, and Mr. Sheeran on several occasions had made this very set point. So probably how we in the future put together the report, some serious consideration to how we use the language should be considered so we could eradicate all of these confusion and you having to clarify and so forth. All right. Yes. Remember that again?
Well, Mr. Chairman, if you're going to, or if we're going to take the position that we don't act on the report that was submitted, then of course we can, Ms. Manans, if you read it. I read it. So
yeah, but the disadvantage is that the members online don't have access.
Come on, that's nonsense.
I appreciate. I did. You want to test me? Go right ahead. Go ahead. This report was prepared. This was prepared and it was circulated. Read the first line. But Mr. Chairman, just to say, does that mean we leave all the paragraphs that are related? Because this report related to, I believe, all the way to 235, unless I'm mistaken. Under the heading that is office and field supplies, I think everything under this heading comes back around to the same thing.
Well, like I said, we will continue excluding the report because other members may have questions concerning the other paragraphs who are not privy to the information that you are privy to. So we mustn't deny them the opportunity.
Don't make it sound like I alone have it. Everybody here.
No, but you alone read it.
Right.
Good. So we'll continue with the remaining paragraphs. And I put, members, I put paragraph.
Mr. Chair.
You said when you go on, you will not go back to those.
So we have more. Oh, go ahead, Dr. Mahadio. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 832, 833.
Very good.
So I'm just reading a part of 832. In addition, audit checks revealed that the staff of the regional administration are claiming $4,000 for accommodation whenever they reported to George for official duties, even though the address on their receipts reflected the address listed in their personal files as their home address. So, Mr. Chair, I want to point that out and ask the REO what is his whether that continues. And the other thing is with the 833, the Accountant General Department, how could this happen that this Treasury officer who is being paid by Georgetown, how come this person could have gotten monies from the region?
Ario?
Mr. Chairman, these are happenings of 2016. They are not happening now.
Sir, you are here as the accounting officer and you have to answer questions for 2016 as well. And the member's question relates to 2016. If you can't, if we're not in a position to answer, then you have to say that to the committee rather than trying to evade the questions to say that it happened in 2016. You are the present acting accounting officer and you are responsible for everything that would have occurred then too. You're here to answer questions on that report, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could you then please clarify the question? Maybe I didn't understand the question.
Okay, can I ask the member to repeat the question?
If I may put it differently, so this explanation here is that 4,000 was a concession granted by the REO for somebody. My home address is number 6 Village Quarantine. I come out from region E. I claim $4,000 to stay at number 66 Village Quarantine. Right? Is that something that is legal? How was it? Can the REO make such a concession? You're saying it doesn't happen anymore, and that's. And the other one is that persons from Treasury were coming to Georgetown. They're listed as staff of the Georgetown office, and yet they were getting monies from the region. How could that have happened?
Well, I cannot see my response being any different than it was earlier. No REO that I know of, maybe I could be corrected here, has the authority to decide on emoluments. And it's a situation that happened in 2016, and it's not happening as of now. I don't know how else I should respond.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I just want to point out that this is the 2016 report, and I take note of the region's response in this particular paragraph, which says the head of budget agency indicated that the former officer approved the staff of the accounting unit to remain in Georgetown for extended periods of time. So I want to know if this is a practice that was inherited from the former REO, which served, I guess, in 2015, 2014, 2013. And if this was a practice that was really inherited, and then it was flagged here by the REO by the AG, and then it was flagged, sir, by the 2016 report, and then measures were put in place. So I want to ask the REO if this was inherited practice, because the region's report did say former REO. And this is the 2016 report. So obviously this was not speaking to the REO that was there in 2016. It is speaking to previous REOs. So is it an inherited practice? And after it was flagged by the AG, corrective measures were put in place, or did it continue in subsequent years from 2016? And I will use the time as the REO take to respond to check the 2017 report to see if it was repeated.
REO?
Mr. Chairman, I could only speak to what I know. This has not been something that is a regular practice. If it was instituted by an REO, I am not sure if he would have had the authority so to do, regardless of who the REO would have been. And because it was not flagged prior to 2016, I could only surmise that it was not happening prior to 2016.
Oh, no. Come on, Mr. Chairman. We have a document in front of us that is saying former REO. The document in front of us in the 2016 report is saying that the head of budget agency indicated that the former regional executive officer approved the staff of the accounting unit to remain in Georgetown for extended periods of time. That was the information that was provided. So I think that is, I don't want to use the word that I was thinking in my head to define what was said. But sir, therefore, what is required here in my view is for the current REO to do an examination of the documents that are before him in his office so as to ascertain when this started. Don't let's assume that not because it wasn't flagged, it never happened. because we do know that the Auditor General deals with samples. The Auditor General deals with samples. The Auditor General doesn't go into a region or any accounting agency and examine every voucher and every document. They deal with samples. And if they see it necessary to conduct deeper audits, special audit or forensic audit or whatever, they go down that road. But we have a situation here where it was mentioned in 2016 that the former REO was doing it. Now, I'm not saying that it started by the former REO. It could very well be it was a system that was inherited. It could very well be that it was a system that was inherited because a lot of things were inherited. So I am asking that let us know when it started. Let us know when it started, and then we can probably we can dig up some document in that request.
All right, member.
Chair, we can dig up.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, can I join in?
Chair, thank you very much.
Yes.
We can then we may be able to find a document that showed even approval was given or something of this sort.
All right.
So let's not just make assumption. Let's get to the bottom of it.
Ario.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if I am misunderstanding this report or if we're referring to language and use of words might be true. Maybe I'm confused. But an audit is done the year after this event. This was done in 2017. So when they speak to the former REO, they would be referring to the REO that was there during this period. This audit is done in 2017. And it would have been perhaps when the former REO was no longer there. That's all it is. That's my understanding.
Investigate it so that you will have a clearer understanding. That's all I'm saying.
Member Teixeira, you have the.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Mr. Mayapol is stretching the limit of the PAC. We are instructed, and by the standing orders, to examine the annual reports of the Auditor General. The former Public Accounts Committee looked at 2014, 2015, and there's a report before the House waiting to be debated that was completed in August 2018 by the PAC. In that report, it also talks about issues of concerns about Region 8. However, the issue that he's specifically asking does not appear to have been flagged. Now, I think that we can't go back on an item that a PAC has concluded or an Auditor General that has been concluded by the PAC. I think that to ask if this happened in 2014, 2015, we need to go back to the Public Accounts Committee report and the Auditor General's report of 2014, 2015. It would be unfair to ask the REO now, appointed in 2021, for something in 2014 and 2015. That's the work of the Public Accounts Committee, not the REO. And therefore, I'm asking that we can, yes?
I agree with you, and that is why the request by the REO for that wasn't put.
Well, I know that the REO is trying to answer.
He wasn't trying to answer that. That was never put to the REO to provide those information to the PAC. It was ignored. Mr. Mayapol's request was ignored because of exactly what you were saying, Madam Teixeira.
Thank you. I was hoping that what you would say, because he was Mayapol was being irascible and at the point of harassment. And I think I'm glad you protected the REO in this occasion.
Chair, which part of that?
I asked the clerk to withdraw that. Siraj, you have the floor.
Thank you, Comma Chairman. Comma Chairman, the REO before us, my question to him is that in preparing for this meeting here today, and in relation to paragraph 832, where it's stated here that this unit, which is the regional accounting unit, and also the REO's office, they would have expenses would have fallen under program 1. It is stated here that the expenses were covered under 5 programs. And in its preparation to answer my first question is that if he 832, if he is in possession of any new information that would have led to this breach in the procedures to be followed, whereby monies from 5 programs were taken to satisfy the expenses is under program 1. That's my first question. My second question from a chairman is if the actions take my region here, if the REO has information to say whether the accounting officer in 2017 was the same accounting officer in 2016, and this will clear the air as it relates to what who is being referred to here as the former REO. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
REO?
Mr. Chairman, my understanding is that the REO that oversaw the 2016 execution of the budget would have been there all of 2016. And my understanding is that he would have been up to May of 2017.
Thank you. Member.
Comment Chairman, so the REO that was in 2017 to answer to the audit that was being conducted by the AG office at that time, it would point that it would have been another REO and not the one that was there in 2016 based on what the accounting officer is saying. If my assumption is wrong, then he can correct me. But sorry, the first part of my question has to do whether the REO is in possession of any information as to why and how these breaches occur, whereby $13.6 million for subsistence and traveling to cover these expenses of the regional accounting unit and the REO's office. Monies were taken from 4 other different programs and included program 1. If in his perusal of documents in preparation for this meeting, he's in possession of any information that would have and further enlighten us as to why these breaches occur. Thank you, Council.
Go ahead, Aria.
Mr. Chairman, the situation was definitely one that I would not have experienced in all my years in the public service. And sir, if you would allow me to, maybe I shouldn't.
Good.
But it's not something that I'm aware of why it was done.
Members, we have been on this 10 paragraphs for over an hour and a half. I will allow the accommodation of 3 more questions before I put the other paragraphs for consideration. Member Dr. Mario Yalu.
Thank you, sir. Ario, could I direct you to 834 to 836? So there are a number of things here that I'd like some clarification on. That first of all, monies were in the budget and it was warranted back to Ministry of Health. Was there any reconciliation to see that the monies, the drugs that you received match the monies that you sent to Ministry of Health? Because this report is saying that it wasn't done. The other thing is that the list that accompanied the warrant to the Ministry of Health did not state the quantities of the drugs that were requested. What is the current status? I know we have the RHO here. The sum expended and the amount credited. And at the time of audit in July 2017, the regional administration had only a small amount of items in stock. As a result, it was difficult to ascertain if drugs and medical supplies were adequately reaching the population. Do we have any information about that? Then 836, there were expired drugs up to the value of $1.99 million that were found there. And then it was also said, yeah, I remember that the drugs were disposed and the auditors couldn't verify where they were disposed and how it was done. Subsequently, the explanation was given that the environmental health officer was there and it was done at the dump site. But Ario, this is not how drugs are disposed of. And I'd like to know, first of all, what systems are in place to avoid expiration of drugs, and if you have any expired drugs in the system at this time.
Mr. Chairman. Before, Mr. Chairman, I ask you to allow RHO to respond to some of these. Please allow me to say in relation to the unlisted quantities in submission with the warrant to the Ministry of Health or Public Health then. It's the fact that we in the region would not be acquainted with prices as per item. I am told on investigating these issues that quantities are specified in the quarterly cribs that are submitted to the MPH for drug supplies for the region. I again would want to think that it would have been difficult and extremely difficult to specify numbers when we were unacquainted with what prices are. But again, please, Mr. Chairman, if you would allow my RHO to have his say on this. Thank you.
Chair, before RHO replies, so REO, this is 2016 report, right? Yes. So could you advise whether any requests were made from the Ministry of Public Health to have the pricing sent to the region so that you could have done that balancing?
Mr. Chairman, again, if that were so, I'm sure that would have been done, because then Ministry of Public Health would have been able to advise on pricing. We have absolutely no idea what an aspirin costs or whatever. Of course, this is from my standpoint. The RHO may answer in a more detailed manner.
But REO was the HRO there in 2016?
Well, like I wasn't, and I'm answering for 2016, I would imagine that he being there and having contact with the original people who were there.
He was there in 2016?
No, I'm a part of the year he was there, he said.
Oh, go ahead, HR. Can the regional health officer provide a response to the question?
Okay, Mr. Chair. So I have in front of me the cribs that were requested by MMU for that year and also for 2017. We tried to get the exact pricing for what we would have ordered, but we could not have gotten that from Ministry of Health, Ministry of Public Health then. But our monies were warranted, and how we procure our drugs and medical supply is through the CRIP system. So in front of me, I have what we would have.
But are you aware that the Ministry of Health buys based on economies of scale rather than an individual item or drug? So when all of the regions warrant their monies to the Ministry of Health or Public Health, they buy in bulk to benefit from economies of scale. So it won't be an individual price for a particular item for a respective region. Isn't that how it is done?
Mr. Chairman, I agree. And I agree with the economies of scales. We appreciate that. But the point we are making, for us to fulfill the mandate that we're required to do in relation to value for money, there must be some way that we are acquainted with what items cost. Otherwise, it would be an exercise in futility if we don't know what an item costs. I agree.
Yeah.
AG,
Chair, I think the Accountant General.
could we get some guidance here?
To the chair, could you repeat? I think I was more focusing on something else.
Okay.
The issue is that, so the regions warrant their monies to drugs and medical supplies to central ministry to purchase drugs, economies of scale, get it cheaper and all of that. But the REO, we are saying that, I am saying that the region should know what the cost of these medicines, how much medicine they receive, so that they're able to say, okay, we warrant $95 million, and we would have received 94 million or whatever. So there is some way of accounting.
To the chair, which is based on the reconciliation between the regions and the Ministry of Public Health at that time. That is how they would be able to ascertain what's the cost of each drug, as well as what's the total amount that each region would have received based on that reconciliation.
Dr. Mario?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I know that the last time my colleague was asking for proof to have the cribs here. And if the RA showed, he walked with cribs, and so there is 834D, I think it is. At the time of audit, as a result, the regional administration only had a small amount of items in stock. I think the last time the query was, would you have had a small amount of items in stock because you did not requisition for it, or because it was nil at any?
Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Chair, it was both because some of the items were nil at MMU, and also it wasn't requisited for.
So, Doc, you were there.
Member Teixeira, you have the floor.
No, I didn't want to, I just want to know if 27 million was what was warranted to the Ministry of Public Health, and you had shortages, could the RHO say if over the course of 2016, did the region receive all the items it requisitioned for over that period?
Mr. Chairman, no. According to the CRIBS report, there were a number of items that were nil.
And during the course of the year, they were never provided for?
No, Mr. Chair.
And those that were nil, were those requests made by the region so that it could be satisfied, or was it an entire list of drugs? I'm trying to understand, how is it that it is nil and you would have warranted monies for these respect? I mean, when you warrant your money, isn't it that accompanied with a list of drugs the region would want? Is that how it's done?
Chair, if I may.
Yes, sir.
So the monies are warranted from the region to the central ministry. And on a monthly basis, the region would request, based on what stocks they have, what they think they would need. They would make a request to the ministry, to the central bond, for these drugs to be supplied. If the bond does not have, then they write nil. So that's how those cribs are generated, and that's how they're filled. That's how the region would know, well, this is not being supplied centrally. But I'd like to ask a follow-up question.
Well, before, I mean, is it a unique list of drugs for respective regions, or is it a unilateral amount of drugs that all regions make requests for when they submit their allocation to send the center to buy these drugs in bulk?
So before 2016, there's something that's called an essential drugs list that determine about all the lists that the public health system is buying. And then they have certain drugs that are used in the referral hospital, GPHC, in district hospital, the staff, a community health worker could use this and a doctor would.
I get it.
So, and based on that,
That's how these requests are made. But if I may ask another question. So,
Go ahead.
So, RH, if I may, to the RH or to the REO. So the region, you had, I think, $3 million or $3+ million that spent. So was that money adequate, or did you use it to purchase the short supply that you were receiving? And was it adequate?
Mr. Chair, so
Go ahead.
it clearly showed that it wasn't adequate for the year. I am not sure currently if the region would have purchased drugs and medical supplies outside of warranting this money that is here, but we can get a report for the committee.
Pertaining to the expired drugs, Mr. Chair, welcome to this. The expired drugs. What is your current status of medical drugs and medical supply where expired?
Okay, so to understand the geographics of Region 8, we have two subregions. Subregion 1 being the North Pacaraimans and subregion 2, the Putaro district. So they are expired drugs at various facilities, but to get them to one location which is Madhya District Hospital, where we would ask Food and Drugs to come and inspect these expired drugs and medical supply. It is an issue to transfer these expired drugs and medical supply to one location. But as of this year, we would have asked Food and Drugs to come and inspect all expired drugs and medical supplies. That is a system that is in place now. So we do have expired drugs and medical supplies.
Chair, if I may.
Honorable Member Mahadio, you have the floor.
Thank you. So, Doc, since when you went back to the region, you said you were there in 2016 and then you were out.
Yes, Honorable.
And when you went back to the region?
I came back to the region December.
Honorable members are not hearing you clearly. Can you speak into the mic, please? Dr. Mahadio.
Yeah, no, I was asking, he was there in 2016 and then he left. I wanted to know when he went back.
December 2020.
December 2020. So you have, Chair, if I may, I'm very concerned about expired drugs because these are expensive stuff.
I expect you to.
Right? So you have a list of all the expired drugs that is in the region. You would have collected everything.
Yes, sir.
And you're ready for it to be disposed of.
Yes, sir.
So there's a protocol that you follow, right? Name of the drug, which year it expired. And
there's an expired drug register.
Right. And so also drugs that are donated, because a lot of the drugs that expired were in other places. Drugs, and my personal experience, drugs that are donated are short, have a short lifespan, they tend to go off. So please have all of that clear. And could we get your commitment that providing that the Food and Drugs come to write it off, that you will have no expired drugs in the system going forward?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chief.
Honorable Member Giretto, Finance.
Thank you, sir. Sir, just a bit of clarification, if I may. I don't want us to leave this paragraph with a statement that was made, actually a use of concept terminology. We had the terminology of economies of scale being used. I see the the accounting officer responding in the affirmative, saying yes, economies of scale are used and so forth. I didn't hear any correction from our technical expert on that. But sorry, economies of scale, I don't understand how economies of scale is in use at this point in time. Economies of scale is it's dealt with production and minimizing when the more for each additional unit produced, the cost actually keeps minimizing over a period of time. That's the whole concept of economies of scale. So I don't understand how economies of scale was even injected into those responses. So forgive me.
Thank you, Honorable Member Finance. I believe you made a statement instead of asking a question. Correct me, please.
Yeah, I'm saying that there was the terminology wasn't there. So what the technical experts could do at this point is to say what mechanisms they use when it was obviously not economies of the, well, correct me if I'm wrong.
Accountant General, do you care to proffer an answer, please?
Yeah, I'll send that over to FS.
Finance Secretary.
Essentially, I think the intention is that if you purchase in larger quantities, you should benefit from some cost savings, right? And I think is from the standpoint they've used the term. Theoretically, that is how it is supposed to work. That if you have if you do centralized procurement, right? If you do centralized procurement, you might be able to negotiate better prices, and some of the associated costs, some of the costs associated with procurement should be minimized, right? The results don't confirm that this is being realized. That we're enjoying savings from centralized procurement. What the results are showing is that we're not getting savings, but we've complicated the procurement of drugs, and we've complicated the accounting aspect of it.
So how is it? Is it happening the same way now? Are you?
Mr. Chairman, yes.
It's happening the same way?
We are continue to warrant money to the Ministry of Health.
So if we are guided, just now, Honorable Member Teixeira, if we are guided, this is not giving us the best results, so to speak. Is there any other practice that the FS or the Accountant General or even the Auditor General would recommend so as to get the best result with minimum issues?
I think if we go back to what was utilized in the past or before this new arrangement, we may find a solution, because some of the accounting issues which are being cited by the Auditor General only emerge when they change the system, right? So we need to revisit the arrangement before, right, to see if it warrants going back to the yes.
Honorable Member Teixeira.
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused by what the FS is saying, I must say. The original thing was always that centrally, the Ministry of Health would go to tender and buy drugs and would get from the WHO, PAHO, UNICEF, IDA, which is a WHO clearinghouse for drugs, as well as tender from pharmaceutical companies. Those would be purchased, and then the regions would give their list of their needs to the Ministry of Health, and the drugs would be distributed. What was introduced in 2015 was a deviation from that. And that is that the regions would have a budgetary item based on their anticipated drug needs and supply needs. And they would then, and so the original concept in 2015 as adumbrated by Dr. George Norton as the Minister of Health then in Parliament was that the regions would purchase their own drugs. This was pointed out would be a horrific arrangement as no, especially the interior regions, had no capacity to purchase drugs and go out to tender to purchase drugs, and they would pay a far higher price because of the smaller quantities. That was then amended, and the regions were then told to warrant the money to the Ministry of Health with the list that they needed, and the money would, the drugs would then be provided. The problem was not in the system as such. The problem was that there was no ability to reconcile what the regions asked for and what they got, and that is repeated in the Auditor General's report in 2016. The economies of scale are clear. If each region had to go out to tender on its own and buy, they would be paying far higher prices for drugs because of the quantities. The economies of scale are relevant to ministries such as Ministry of Health, where they're buying 10 million tablets of one drug, say an antibiotic, and malaria drugs or other things. And so they're looking for the best price. UNICEF, WHO, PAHO provide a number of essential drugs at a good price. And so those had an arrangement because they're international UN bodies. However, they went to tender for other drugs that were needed for diabetes, for heart, et cetera, et cetera. So the system still remains central procurement under the procurement laws of our country. What was the devil in the detail was the request by the regions and those requests being filled from the MMU based on the procurement by the Ministry of Public Health then. And as we found in the audit report that the public health, there are a number of issues are investigated by the Auditor General to do with procurement by the Ministry of Public Health of drugs, including those that didn't have warrant and waivers by the NPTAB. So I think we're skirting around the issue. There is an economy of scale. It is relevant to large purchases of drugs and medical supplies. And that were we to do an experiment, if Madhya, the region 7, 8, had to go to procure, they would be paying far higher for medical supplies like gloves and syringes, vaccines, for example, and malaria drugs and others that they need all the time. So I think we're getting into an area that may be academic, but it's totally irrelevant to what is required now. The economies of scale are relevant to a Ministry of Public Health, not because of manufacturing, but because of price, and our procurement laws allowed for that.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member Teixeira, for your statement.
Chair, if I may.
Yes,
I'm not disputing that there should be economies of scale. I'm saying that the whole issue of warranting, the way it is done right now, has created some problems for the accounting officer. Not only do they lack the capacity to procure drugs, but they also lack the capacity to use the accounting, the system of warrants where they're finding it difficult to
well, Finance Secretary, you are the person that I expect to provide the guidance in your capacity as Finance Secretary, and I hope you will not be hindered in doing so.
No, I actually did some research on this particular issue, and I engaged a former Minister of Health who explained the entire system and how the change in the system affected how it contributed to
these queries.
He explained, and so he indicated that if we re-examine how we used to do before, maybe you will find a solution there. So not only do the accounting officers lack the capacity to procure drugs. The region, lack the capacity to procure drugs, but they also have limited skills in terms of accounting for the items that they receive. And that's why once we maintain the system, you will see these queries. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, can I recommend to the FS that in fact where the accounting issue comes is at the Ministry of Health and the MMU. If a region gives $27 million for drugs and they're specified, when they provide the drugs, they should be able by the end of the year or near the end of the year, by their own records, because they're the ones who have the prices for what is each item, that they then give an account to the region saying warrant received for 27 million and 27 million provided in value of drugs and medical supplies and or 25 million and so on. The problem in each of the Auditor General's report has been that the regions cannot tell if they received value to the money that they gave for the warrant to the Ministry of Health. So it's not the regions who have to do the accounting aspect of what was provided, the value of what is provided. It is the MMU, Ministry of Health. And from that, they would be able to deduce whether they received all the drugs at the value, at the cost, at the amount of money warranted to the Ministry of Health. The accounting starts at the MMU, not in the region.
Honorable members, I put paragraph 838 to paragraphs 858 for your consideration. And I do take note that there are some paragraphs that were left open for consideration. I would like to...
Chairman, say which ones were left open after, is 839 one of those?
$827, $828,
right,
$831. Those are the three that were left open, Honorable Member Teixeira. I turn the accounting officer's attention. Honorable Teixeira, you were going to say something?
No, I was just wondering if 837, 839 is one of those that have to remain open as they were part of the special audit.
We're now going to from 838 to 858.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking about 839.
Yeah, well, we're now going there, Honorable Member. We're now going from 838 because what was put before ended at 837. So 839 was never open. So now it's going to be open from 838 to 858. So 839 will be under consideration now. And if it is linked to that, that special audit report, then most certainly it will. But what I'm looking at 839, I'm wondering if that is the paragraph that the AG was speaking to earlier, that repeated itself in the 2017 report, because I see it speaks here directly to dietary supply and what you were referencing, as opposed to what the point we were making about earlier on the office and field supplies. And I would like to seek some clarity on 840, maintenance works. And 840 flows into a series of other paragraphs, but it speaks to overpayment, which is an issue that we have been flagging here at this Public Accounts Committee for the longest while. Ario, may I ask what has contributed to these overpayments? It says amounts totaling 248.200 million were allocated for the maintenance of buildings and infrastructure within the region. As at 31st of December 2016, amounts totaling 255.823 million were expended under the various line items as follows, and speaks to maintenance of buildings, maintenance of roads, maintenance of bridges, maintenance of drainage and irrigation, maintenance of sea and river defense, maintenance of other infrastructure. And from para 842, it gives us a more direct view in terms of the projects to which overpayments were made. May I ask what contributed to these overpayments, accounting officer?
Mr. Chairman, it's just that contractors were paid for work not done. Measured work as against payment did not match up, and therefore you had an overpayment.
So, Ario, how is it that you pay? How is it that you pay a contractor? What is the process that leads to the payment of a contractor?
The process that I understand is that every step along the way, the work is monitored by the region. Payments are made based on works done.
And the final payment is made based on measured works.
Precisely.
So is it a fair conclusion that these works were not measured, hence the overpayment? Or is it a fair conclusion that the engineering department did not do a proper job?
Either one are correct or both are correct.
We have the engineer that served in 2016, as he would have indicated earlier. So can I ask you to allow your engineer to provide some assistance as to what would have caused the overpayment for these projects?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Comrade Ario. Engineer, you have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, the overpayment would have resulted as a matter that the Works Department was not afforded the chance. The overpayments, Mr. Chairman, the overpayments would have occurred as a fact that the Works Department was not afforded a chance to make site visits to do physical verification before the payments were prepared.
When you say the Works Department, as in your department?
Correct, sir.
So how did you generate a certificate of completion of the project?
The certificates were completed based on contractors' request for payments.
Pardon me? Can you please repeat that for me? Please, I didn't hear you clearly.
The payments were generated based on contractors' request for payments.
So let me see if I get it clear. A contractor is awarded a project. The contractor goes wherever he has to go, which is probably Cato, because your office is in Madia, right? And the project was awarded in Cato. The contractor goes to Cato, builds the whatever, let's say it's a school, builds the school and comes to your office for a certificate of completion, and you generate that without verifying if the school is built?
Mr. Chairman, like I said, it's not that we didn't want it, because we were not afforded the opportunity to visit.
No, but I don't understand that.
The Works Department was not allowed to travel to visit before we could generate.
So why did the Works Committee generate a certificate of completion? Because that is the document that starts the process of payment. Why is it that you, sir, as the engineer, generated a certificate of completion?
Mr. Chairman, the payments were generated based on instructions from the REO at the time.
But that's implicating yourself.
But is your signature?
Sir, hold on, honorable members, I have the floor. That is it yourself.
Yeah, but you gotta be asking questions, Chair.
That is implicating yourself, sir. So you are saying that you were given an instruction to sign on a document, but how can we verify that you were given such instruction? Do you have any documented proof that you were given an instruction to prepare certificates of completion?
I don't have any documented proof. But
well, it's only an assumption.
But Mr. Chairman, I have a documented letter which I wrote to the RU stating that I am signing these documents under duress because not having the opportunity.
Do you have that letter here?
I don't have it here, but I do have the letter. It can be provided with this.
Yeah, but then you see.
In addition to that, sir, I would like to add that the first time I refused to sign the voucher without visiting or without verifying, I was sent on 52 days leave.
Go back that, let me hear, please.
The first time, Mr. Chairman, the first time I refused to sign a voucher because it was not truthful or factual, I was sent on 52 days of leave.
As in you were sent on administrative leave or compulsory leave, what?
The leave that was due to me.
Did you apply for those leaves?
No, sir.
Is there any documentation showing that you applied for it and it was granted, or you were just told to go on the leave?
After refusing to sign the voucher and returning from lunch, I was called to the personnel department and handed a letter stating that I have to proceed on 52 days of annual leave.
Ooh.
I'm finding it very strange because we would have to have some, at least I would prefer to see, rather than prepare these things, I would prefer to see the documentation, because what is before us here are overpayments that bear your signature in terms of the certificate of completion. And the certificate of completion, are they clerk of work?
Mr. Chairman, can I intervene for a minute? The Chairman Figuera had read to all members of the Region 18 from the law in regards to their appearance before the PAC and telling the truth. The assumption we have to give the gentleman who is speaking is that he's telling us the truth, and therefore we have to ask him to provide the letter that he sent to the REO questioning, signing, or however you put it over, signing documents where he had not been able to verify the works. Until that, I think we need to take him at his word at this point and ask him to provide the letter.
I agree with you.
Can I comment?
I could, Mr. Chair, I have my mic on for a while.
Hold on. I agree with you, Honorable Member Teixeira, but because we are not finished here in terms of a conclusion to the paragraphs, that would have been a request of the PAC for him to provide a letter. But I'd like to recognize Honorable Member Juretta Finance, followed by Honorable Member David Patterson.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chair, I have a difficulty with the way in which this discussion is progressing. Mr. Chair, when someone is employed, they have a list, they have job descriptions that they have to adhere to. Mr. Chair, it is not acceptable for someone to come before this committee and say they signed a document because they were forced to sign a document.
If it's the truth.
Officers that come before us, as the REO right now has been pointing out time and time again, there are rules and guidelines that are guiding this process. Nobody could force you to do something that is illegal and you go ahead and you do it.
Really?
Really?
Honorable members, Ms. Finance has the floor. I will ask the officer that is manning the virtual platform to mute all members until they are given the floor by the chair. Thank you. We will proceed.
So it's unacceptable, sir, for us to be accepting an explanation at the level of the PAC that somebody forced me to sign this document.
But
is the accountant also going to tell us right now that if the REO currently sitting here tell him to sign something that he doesn't want to sign, he's going to go ahead and do it? Is that his method of working? Those are the questions that are being put before us. We can't just make loose statements like that at this level.
We operate at the PAC with guidelines. If those guidelines are not followed, we have certain words that the members of government love to use, illegal, and all of those things. Why aren't those words being shown out right now? Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chairman.
Honorable Member Patterson, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Right, thank you very much. I also have a little difficulty in the responses given by, I think he's the regional engineer now, the gentleman.
I think, just clarity, I believe he is an engineer in the department, and the regional engineer is Mr. Joseph Patterson. Am I correct, accounting officer?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Patterson.
So I have a huge difficulty with the responses given there. And the facts are that you as a chair are even allowing it to be part of the record. Sir, if he wants to make that as a claim, knowing he's coming to PAC in 2016, to the thing, so knowing that was the reason why there's overpayments. One, he did not say anything to the Auditor General then or no. Two, he's coming here to PAC and using that as an excuse and didn't even walk with any documentation to prove it, and we are allowing it to go onto our records. It's circumstantial at best. And I'm sure the other members, we've objected to people saying, I know, this is the reason we've objected that on prior examination of other persons. So the mere fact that he makes that excuse, walks with no documentation, knowing he came all the way from Region 1, all the way from Region 1, sir, and you to allow that, sir, standing on record.
Region 8.
Pardon?
Region 8.
Region 8, sorry, my apologies. He came all, but even so, just as far. And then he said, oh, he has a letter saying this, saying that. There is, sir, you mean, one, I would hope that you as the chairman will allow that to stand in the record. I was even disappointed you even allow him to continue. And secondly, sir, we have the former PS online. You mean, if that was ever raised with the former PS or any other person prior to this, sir? Prior to this. So I have strong objections, sir, for you even allowing that to be placed on the records. Thank you.
If I could just struck from the record source.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just clarify.
Just now, Honorable Member Sanjeev, that it in. Thank you, Honorable Member Patterson. I would like to ask the engineer if he was a public servant in 2016 or a contracted employee.
What does that mean?
There is no distinction. What you have asked.
If you are on the pensionable establishment or a contracted employee. And the question, the Honorable Member Datadin, the question is directed to the engineer, not you, my learned friend.
Mr. Chairman, in 2016, I was a contracted employee through bonded scholarship.
Through?
Bonded scholarships.
Thank you. Honorable Member Datadin.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to clarify two things. One is, I understand that you have asked for a letter to be produced. So if we could be clear that in the 7 days, the usual thing.
No, I did not ask for a letter to be produced. Well, Honorable Member,
let me finish.
No, hold on. Honorable Member Teixeira indicated that on the basis of what Chairman Figueroa did, which was to read to the officers before us about telling the truth, we should take what the engineer is saying to us as the truth, give him the benefit of the doubt, and request the letter. I said to Honorable Member Teixeira that I agree with what she is saying, but I did not request it because we're still on the paragraphs. And at the end of the examination, whatever is requested will be put to the accounting officer for him to provide. I just want us to clarify that.
Okay, well, there is consideration that will be given as to whether the letter is produced. Secondly, please, Mr. Chairman, this is a hearing and evidence are pursuant to what is asked. This committee has no power to dictate what and how answers are made. We cannot, with all respect, strike things that are said once they are given in response to a question. Now, we do know that there are circumstances where it has not, where we've asked a question and we're not getting an answer to a question. But this gentleman has been asked a question and he's given a fairly detailed response. We might not like it, but it is his response. And this is a parliamentary committee. And the record of what he says, we would have no authority to strike it. So to say that it has to be struck because he has said all of these
was a request to strike it.